Hey, what's going on, guys? Phil here. Wanted to just throw this out there because it was something I was thinking about and I thought it was interesting. So, hopefully, if you stumble upon this, it will help you. I recently applied for a position at Blizzard as a game designer, card designer. Here's the little thing, all about it on their website. And one of the questions that they pose to you when you apply is to include your favorite Hearthstone card and describe why it's your favorite. And this question is really, really simple, right? At the baseline, at the base level, because everyone has this talk. And normally your answer is going to be the first card that comes to mind, which is very useful feedback, right? So, when I get asked, what's your favorite card? My instant thought is Annoyatron. Annoyatron is not a strong card, right? It's not bad, it's not weak, it's like very mid-tier. It's very boring. It's a common with a couple keywords, and it has some cute art, right? But it's very simple. Its theme screams Hearthstone to me, so it's what I think of. It's my favorite card, it's my favorite art. But that's not really what they're asking, right? This is a design-based question. So, looking at this question a little bit deeper, we can instead look at it as if it says, tell me what you think the best designed card is in Hearthstone and why. And there's a couple different ways to then go from that, right? So now you have to balance thinking about thematics and how those, function into design. You have to think about, does competitive viability, work its way into that equation at all? Does how a card performed, like in its pocket meta versus how it's evolved with time, and is it still seeing play, stuff like that, does that come into play? And in short, I don't think that power level or even balance of a card should impact the decision of what is your favorite card based on, the idea that we're looking at a design of a card rather than just like what is the best card. So that's how I got rid of the question of, do I address power level? With that point gone, thinking of this question at an even deeper level is, what am I looking for in a card that screams this is designed well? What are things that, as a player, I think to myself, oh, I recognize this, and I recognize that this is good. This is something I want to feel a lot. When I look at a card and I go, oh shit, that looks really cool, like I want that reaction, right? From my players if I'm designing a card. So what are things that make me say, oh shit, that's so cool? And I compiled a little list. Before I give the list of the concepts, I want to go over really quick just the list of cards that instantly came to my mind when I thought, what is your favorite card? Because obviously when I first read that question, I had to go through all of those thoughts I just said in like half a second, right? That's just how your brain works. So instantly, my list from the start was the Paladin Quest Meet Your Makers, the Reborn Quest, Jungle Giants and Barnabas, Annoyatron, Elise, the one with the monkey map, not the 5-mana one, Greybow, Meatwagon, Hobgoblin / Carnival Barker, both are in the same vein, Barista, Lachin, and Hammett. So those were kind of some ideas to maybe give you an idea of where my head was at. And now I'm going to explain why my head was there. There's a couple concepts that I've narrowed down to that I believe are what you should be striving to achieve with any new card. Obviously, there's going to be exceptions to this. Obviously, many of those will probably be, more like common or uncommon, like minion stuff. So, like, supporting cards. So, like, I'm not going to sit here and try and tell you that I think Annoyatron is the best designed card in Hearthstone. Is it well designed? Is it balanced? Yeah. Is it cool? Did it see play? Yeah. Do I like it? Yeah. Doesn't mean that I'm going to give you a video essay about how I came up with Annoyatron, because the concept, the design behind Annoyatron at the base level, with, imagine you have a blank card, you have it on your screen right here, there's a card with mana, health, attack, keywords. Imagine you had none of that. There's only a card with only the text and the keywords. Hey, I want a Divine Shield taunt minion that's cheap. That was the design behind Annoyatron, right? So, What we can instead talk about and go into depth about are more complex concepts that I like to see in cards. And the point of these concepts is to get a player to have these, oh shit, that looks so cool moments. So, the concepts I've narrowed it down to are: does your card inspire creative deck building? Does your card create a new archetype? / does it improve an existing archetype? Especially does it improve an existing archetype that is currently weak? Okay? So there's a couple layers to that point, but I hope that that kind of idea goes across. Third, is it relevant? Can it remain relevant with new releases? Will new releases make people think, oh, do you remember this card? It'd be good with this. And then fourth is, when I play against an opponent and I play this deck, does my opponent come out of the game thinking, oh, that was really cool, I want to play that? There should always be a moment where your opponent, if they have not like experienced exactly what your deck is yet, when they put all the pieces together and they go, oh, that was their entire idea, and that idea seems cool, I should try that. This concept requires you to be in a different kind of mindset though, right? So, at least for me, I've been playing Hearthstone since closed beta. I've played competitively, I've done coaching, I've done collegiate series stuff, I've done the works, right? So when I think of Hearthstone players, I think of the most competitive people. I think of all my legend friends, I think of all the tournament friends I've made, stuff like that. When you're a designer, it's important to consider them sometimes, but they're not your focus. You want to focus on the base player. I want to focus on the player that doesn't know what Hearthstone is, doesn't know what WoW is, barely knows what a video game is, and they found Hearthstone on the App Store. And they go, oh hey, this game looks fun, I'm going to download Hearthstone, right? Inspiring creative deck building is my first point. And how do I want to start this? From our new player example, right? Let's say someone downloads the app. They have no real idea what they're doing. They just go ahead and they start playing for a bit. Their level, their like power level is all the way at the bottom, right? Rock bottom. But as they start playing through the tutorial, they start learning classes a little more. They hit these little like stepping stones of like, oh, I'm starting to learn the game. And that's really easy to do for mechanics. You can walk players through mechanics very slowly and introduce them very easily. What's more difficult to do is to make the transition from stepping stoning your player to learning the game to then, once they know how the game functions, actually engaging with it more, right? Because the way that you make fans is you engage people in the long term. So like, I've played board games and I learned how they played, and I play them like once or twice, and that's cool. Was it a fun experience? Yeah. Am I gonna go out and think about my Settlers of Catan strategy when I go home after I leave like board game night? Probably not as much, but especially in the video game industry, you want to do that. You want your players to leave and be thinking, man, dude, when I get home, that guy's Meat Wagon deck was fucking sick. I gotta try Meat Wagon. Okay? That is very important. And it's very difficult to transition players out of like from that step of, I know how the game works, to I now actively want to engage with the game. And as a designer, you want to put in stepping stones, like we were talking about earlier, that help guide people there. So, creative deck building, right? Let's take some of the cards that I named, for example. Let's start with, we're going to go in depth on the Barnabas quest because that was my eventual answer. So I'm going to skip over that one. Let's go with Meat Wagon. Okay? Meat Wagon. It's a 4-mana 1/4 with Death Rattle. Recruit a minion that has less attack than this. A player sees that for the first time, and they go, wow, that card looks really bad. Because it just has bad stats, right? So that's the base observation. You can't particularly help a player change their base idea, right? So like if you reveal the card in front of me, Meat Wagon, and I go, wow, that looks terrible. Until I see something happen with it, I'm gonna think that card's terrible. Let's imagine that a slightly more experienced player is revealed Meat Wagon, and they go, wow, that looks terrible. I want to try to know why they printed it, right? There's no reason in a set for you to print bad cards. Like, bad cards with no reason, right? So, a question that might pop into someone's head is, it's weird that they make bad cards sometimes. I wonder why they make bad cards. And that's one of the stepping stones that you can give people to go from, I just play the game, to I'm thinking more high level about the game, right? So, now that someone's identified that there's an issue, hey, I'm interested in why Meat Wagon exists. Now they're going to go try and make a deck. Its restriction is, you want to make the full use of its effect. So you want to find a 0 mana minion, so you never have to buff, assuming there's no hand buff. Let's just pretend hand buff doesn't exist. So it only ever will be a 1/4. Now they're like, okay, let's go in the collection and look at 0 cost minions. And now they're engaging with cards they've probably never engaged with before, because who plays 0 attack minions regularly, right? There's like Shield Bearer, and there's like a 0/2 chest that gives you armor if it survives. That's kind of the power level of cards you're playing with there, right? So a lot of base level players aren't going to really think about it. But now this gives them a reason to think about it. Also, this goes really well into my point of relevant with new releases, right? So whenever a new 0 cost minion is printed, if someone's gone through this process with Meat Wagon, they go, oh shit, look, maybe that's good. Maybe that's what makes Meat Wagon competitively viable. And now they have a goal. So every time someone goes through this process and they make this deck and they go and play it against people on ladder, at some point, an opponent is going to look at Meat Wagon being played and be like, what is this garbage card? And eventually it'll trigger and they'll be like, oh, he pulled out a summoning portal. That's cool. I wonder what he does with that. And then you whatever your combo is, you combo off. And they're like, wow, this was so cool. I need to do this. And then you've now inspired your opponent to go and try a new deck, right? And the cycle continues. So we just kind of ran through it with Meat Wagon. There's reasons I didn't choose Meat Wagon. But now that you have the concept of what we're thinking, like the level that we're thinking on, right? Let's go into my answer. My answer ended up being Barnabas the Stomper and Jungle Giants, right? So, Jungle Giants reads, summon 5 minions with 5 or more attack, and then get Barnabas. And then Barnabas reads, reduce the cost of your minions to 0. Why is this my most well-designed card, right? Let's think. Does it inspire creative deck building? Well, at the time when it was released, there weren't many cards that really referenced minion attack values. There were cards like Shadow Word Death, kill a big minion. Shadow Word Pain, kill a small minion. Big Game Hunter, neutral way to kill a big minion. But outside of kill something that has this or more, your attack value very rarely mattered. With Jungle Giants, now you're looking at, a pool of minions that you'd never considered. Why would I previously have ever searched my collection for, I want 5 attack minions? I don't know, maybe because you were bored. There was no reason to do that. This is what I'm talking about by these stepping stones to help players start to engage more. When a new player reads, summon 5 minions with 5 or more attack, their first thing is, I don't know any minions with 5 or more attack. Let's go see what those are. And now they're engaging with your content more. They're opening themselves up to more cards. So they're overall to pretend your brain can be just 100% filled, right? They're like 0.2% of Hearthstone now turned into like 0.4%. They now know more. They're thinking more. Their brain can handle interacting with your game in a more complex way now. They're starting to get the gears turning, right? So that's good. That's creative deck building. And also, it's a little bit fringe, but it's kind of new archetype, right? We've never had minion attack value matters druid. And obviously that's not exactly what the archetype is, but my minion's attack value is very integral to my game plan, is not something we saw previously. So I think it encompasses the essence of new archetype. And then does it become relevant with new releases? Every time a 5 cost or a 5 attack minion comes out, you think, oh, can I run this instead? Especially, particularly with this one, another lesson that new players learn is, why do different cards exist? Let's take a very basic example. 4 mana Chillwind Yeti, 4 mana 4/5 was the baseline 4-drop for a long time. A new player starts playing and they notice, hey, everyone plays Chillwind Yeti. I'm going to play Chillwind Yeti. Chillwind Yeti must be good. Now, let's say they read this card and they go, oh, I wonder what 5 attack minions exist, because now my Chillwind Yeti doesn't do my quest. And they go into your collection and you see, I don't think these were around at the same time. They kind of were. It was TGT. Let's take Ice Rager. 3 mana 5/2 versus a 4 mana 4/5. You look at both of those and you get to really start thinking like, okay, obviously there's a mana value difference for extra attack. I lose defense. You know, you're starting to think of these trade-offs that you might not have thought about before. And you're also learning the importance of, like, what's the way? Typically, like, there's a pretty good rule in Hearthstone that higher attack means more mana. How should I reword that? I'm just gonna go back to my original point. There's lots of trade-offs that you're starting to, try to consider, right? Is 1 extra mana worth it for all that extra health, even though I miss out on this attack? Does the fact that I need this to be 5 attack matter enough where I'm willing to not run this card anymore? And now you're engaging your Hearthstone brain more than you may have before. So now that 0.4% of your brain turns into 0.6%, and people start making these connections. And all of this, I'm explaining it to you in a video, right? All of this can be done, and the goal is to do this without anyone ever having to see this video. As a designer, you should be able to look at this card, and I want you, even if you don't acknowledge that you know all this, I want you to know, oh hey, I should go look at 5 attack minions. That's all I need, right? And then you're going to start making these other connections that I've made. And that's the point. That's why, like, I'm not trying to boast here, but, like, I've played Hearthstone for a long time. I know the ins and outs of this game. And I think of these things a lot quicker than most people would, right? But it's taken me years to develop that skill. And as a designer, you want to try to teach your players how to think like this, right? Because the job you're doing is important. You want them to have fun experiences, but you also want their experiences to be better. Everyone knows going into a game for the first time, it's going to kind of suck. Have you ever played a board game for the first time, especially in a new group where no one even knows the rules? Half the time you mess up, half the time you don't even know, So, like, as a designer, you want to make it so that every time I play another game, I'm going to be learning a little bit more. And it's going to be rewarding for me to learn more. It's going to be exciting. And that's where we come into the last part where you inspire your opponents. If I see this deck for the first time and I go, I've never seen the quest. I should think about 5 attack minions. Oh, I lost. This was their combo. Stuff like that. Now you're getting your opponent's brain going. And they're going to start having a similar experience to you where they're like, okay, I have to go do what he just did and further my knowledge, right? And that's what design should all be about, is with every card, how can I make it so that my players understand more about why they're doing what they're doing? And that kind of transitioned to inspiring your opponent when I meant for it to be about relevant with new releases. I have a specific example for relevant with new releases with this Cursed Disciple. Cursed Disciple was like a meme tier card. It's garbage. And then it was discovered that, hey, Jungle Giants says summon. And this counts 2 for 1 on summoning 5 attack minions. So is that consistency worth running this really bad card? And then you look at other cards that synergize with it, like, oh, Oaken Summons pulls 4-mana minions, and he's a 4-mana minion that also triggers twice for my quest. So if I'm running quest, if I'm going to be tutoring out minions anyway, I may as well tutor the minion that also helps me twice as much, right? And it's all about these little connections and leaving these little hints. So that is why I chose Jungle Giants as the best card. And that's not even talking about Barnabas yet, because quest cards have an interesting additional interaction to them, right? So most cards that you see, you'll like look at and be like, Meat Wagon. Ooh, that looks cool. Let's go try to make Meat Wagon. And your end goal is I made a deck based on Meat Wagon. Your end goal is different for Jungle Giants. First you see Jungle Giants and you're like, I want to make a deck that makes that work. Then you complete your quest, you receive Barnabas, and now you have, yeah, is he a good minion just by himself? Of course. Can you just throw him into like a mid-range druid deck and, not really worry about what costs 0, it's just cool they cost 0? Yeah. But there's more depth there. Hey, if all my minions cost 0, what's really good when it costs 0? Are there ways I can kill someone in one turn? Is Malygos plus spells the way I want to go? If my cards cost 0 and I don't have any card draw, I'm going to run out of cards. So now you're learning about the importance of card draw and the importance of synergy. So I want to draw my cards after I play my Barnabas so that my minions cost 0. And even if some of these points sound basic, right? Like everyone, when asked, hey, if your things cost 0 after you play this, should you play it before or after you draw? Most people are going to instantly know, oh, I should play it, before, so that my things that I draw cost 0. But sometimes you don't think everything through. And learning or even misplaying that interaction helps you become a better player. And as a designer, all you want to do is make your players better. Because then the better your players are, the more crazy designs you can do, and they can understand, and you don't have to worry about it breaking the game. Do you think that if the game launched and original Yogg-Saron was a classic card, that it would be nearly as, strong of a game? Or as easy to get into? No, it would have fucking sucked. Because there were no spells back then. That was a lot of randomness in a game that back then was not very random. And, there's millions of reasons why, but I think that demonstrates the point. So, yeah. I thought this was an interesting thought experiment, and if this helps anybody, let me know in the comments. If you want to have fun discussions about this topic in general, feel free to post, what do you think the most well-designed card is? Are there things that I'm missing? Are there things I'm not considering? Are there reasons why you disagree with some of the concepts that I've laid forward? Stuff like that. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.